Hey fans and subscribers, this is your host Joe on the Gaming for Insight channel with another video of Quick Chat. The topic, making sense of Switch 2 cartridges, what we know so far. Joining me is returning guest, Satiric. Satiric, welcome to Quick Chat.
Hello, happy to be here.
It's been exciting to understand what gaming on a Switch will be like with the option for direct download from Nintendo Direct, and then also the cartridges that we are used to having for the Switch 1. And so we are looking at the information on what is this going to be like for us and those that are buying a Nintendo Switch 2. And we've had in the US, we had a delay on the actual pre-order date. It is no longer going to be April 9th. And we're actually recording this on April 9th. So it's significant for that. So in the US, we will have to wait for that pre-order date. But June 5th should be the date as of right now that we can get our hands on a Nintendo Switch 2. But in this video, what I want to explore with you is how Switch 2 games are going to work. So with Metroid Prime 4, we understand that with that game, the Switch 1 compatible game can come on the cartridge, and then the Switch 2 compatibility can be downloaded as a patch online. And that was originally what we understood. And then looking at more information, we have Daemon X Machina, and that is the full Switch 2 compatible game that is available to pre-order as of right now for September 5th. But then you have another game, Guardians of Azuma, which has the Nintendo Switch 1 game on it with the Nintendo Switch 2 Edition upgrade pack, also on the cartridge. And then you have Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster that is just the game key card. So we have a variety here of what we're seeing with the Switch 2 game. So how do we make sense of this on what game, what type of features we will have with the game?
So as I understand it, Nintendo's take this time around is to go much more on a game-by-game kind of basis. So each game is going to get its own individual treatment, and that also kind of translates to the price, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But as far as I understand it, they're going on a game-by-game basis. So if I'm assuming, this is my own take on this, if it is a game that is going to be releasing on the Switch and the Switch 2, I'm assuming they're going to be focusing more on that Switch 1 version and then the DLC being digital. But if it's something that's going to be a Switch 2, I'm assuming it's going to be, all on that new fancy red little card.
Yeah, and we have been talking on Discord, and it's been making me wonder if, for example, Cyberpunk 2077, when that comes out on the Switch 2, are you going to be able to buy? Are there going to be 3 different versions of buying it, or 2 different versions? So Switch 2 cartridge with the game, as well as the compatibility for it, as well as the pre-game key. So all 3 of those components into one cartridge, or if you have the option to just buy the pre-game key card, which will then allow you to have access to download it directly, and you need to actually look at the labels specifically on the cartridge. Are we going to be seeing that, or is it just too soon to tell?
I think so. It is too soon to tell because I haven't heard any official statements as far as I can remember. My memory's not the best, but I do believe that anything that's going to be released on both systems is going to get a regular black cart for the Switch 1 and then a red cart for the Switch 2. And I personally believe that any kind of extra content, whether it be a graphical upgrade patch, which is going to be, as far as I remember, $10 per update or upgrade, and then the graphical plus whatever game editions are going to be $20 per upgrade. I believe those kind of things are going to be all digital.
And as far as developments for this, and looking at game preservation and those that are interested in collecting the physical form of the game, or in this case, the cartridge, but it's more complex now, whereas originally you get the cartridge, you get the game, but now you could get the cartridge, but just access to the game license. For those that are interested in game preservation, what does this look like as far as whether there's a preference with the Switch 2 to collect the cartridges versus just go full digital with this platform?
So with the Switch 1, they did do this sometimes, but with Nintendo specifically, the precedent that they've set and what they've done historically is, in general, their first party titles and as many titles as they can fit on the actual physical card, the actual, gigabytes of space on there, um, it will be on the card if it will fit. And it will say on the bottom if the game is not on the card. So, for example, what I've heard is that Elden Ring is not going to be on the card, but at the bottom of the case, it will say this is a game key card.
Are they going to have a preference for going full
Yes.
cartridge versus full digital, because we have this variation in what each cartridge will entail instead of the Switch 1 experience, which is you get the cartridge, you get the game, and you're good to go?
Yeah, I think that game preservation is going to get a little bit more complicated because of the fact that it seems like there's going to be a lot more various kinds of patches, a lot more patches in general, and those things are going to have to be pulled off of the Switch through other means if you're going to preserve them, unfortunately. That being said, that was kind of the case with the Switch 1 as well, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is on this new iteration.
Let's talk a little bit about if you as a gamer want to go all digital, you want to expand your local storage space on the Switch 2, which is 256 gigabytes locally from what we understand so far with what's been shared. So you have the option for a micro SD slot to insert expandable media into that micro SD express card. So you're starting to see these cards from SanDisk and Lexar. What does that exactly mean? From my understanding, it's just being able to reach higher read and write speeds than previous cards before. And if you look at previous micro SD cards, I mean, they're very low compared to now. We're seeing up to 900 megabit per second for the read speed, and then up to 650 megabit per second for the write speed. So much significantly higher here for those. But as far as the push towards expandable media, any thoughts on that?
So this is going to take me back, or take me back, I guess, a little bit. On the PS3, I updated my internal hard drive from the HDD that they had in there, which was a 5400 RPM, to an SSD. And just upgrading the speed of that drive dramatically improved the gaming experience with load times especially, but also in a lot of cases with loading in textures. So I believe that this change, this upgrade, is necessary for the Switch 2 for these games to be able to run at the fidelity that they are showing off. I was watching some of this, the Switch 2 showcase that they had, where Austin Evans and Marquez Brownlee and a handful of others were there, and they were saying that every game there looked fantastic, and that even Metroid Prime 4 was running at 120 frames a second, and that was with no DLSS, no upscaling whatsoever. So I'm quite sure that this upgrade is necessary, and I do think that it's the right move for Nintendo. It's unfortunate that you can't use older cards, but 256 gigs with how Nintendo compresses their file sizes down is actually quite a bit of space. If I'm not mistaken, they actually shrunk down a lot of Switch 1 games even more small, like sometimes by gigabytes smaller than they were on the Switch 1, which is magic as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's going to be a decent amount of space for a lot of people. And then as far as going digital versus physical and all that goes, I'm personally going to be going digital for most of my games, despite being a huge advocate of game preservation. One, because the carts, because they are faster carts, they do have more data on them. That's part of why they're more expensive. I don't have a whole ton of money, so digital is convenient and easier for me at the moment. So I'm going to go mostly digital for now, personally.
It's going to be exciting and interesting to see further developments with what these cartridges are going to look like. Satiric, thanks so much for joining Quick Chat. Fans and subscribers, make sure to like and subscribe for more Quick Chat. Satiric, take care.
You too.